Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Dominate Fishing. I'm Dan Meyer, and today we're going to be talking about 5 of my best crappie ice fishing lures. So I've already had a lot of days on the ice fishing, caught tons of crappies, and these are some of my most consistent and best lures. So these are the lures that you can use, anytime you're going to go out crappie fishing in pretty much any situation and have confidence that you're going to catch fish. Now there's tons of crappie lures that work. There's tons of lures on the market, but these are some of my absolute bests. And in some of the upcoming videos, we're going to talk about specific situations and maybe some of the best lures for those. But for all around, just any situation, anytime you're going out, assuming the crappies are neutral or too aggressive, these baits are going to work well. And even when the crappies are negative, these are going to be some of the go-to baits. Alright, so getting right into this, we're going to talk about the first lure, and it's a lure I've been using a ton so far this year. I've used it a bunch in some of the videos that I've shot already. It's one of my favorite lures, and that is the J&S Custom Jigs Versamite. It looks just like this. There it is in the pack. That's the black. There's the chartreuse. Here it is in white. I like to have a lot of different colors, but here is how I rig it, and here it is on a jig. So right here, it's on a Google-eyed jig. So this is you can see it's a fair-sized plastic, and I'm fishing it on a big jig. This is how I would rig it for when the crappies are neutral to aggressive. I've got a nice, big, heavy Google-eyed tungsten jig. I can get it down there very quickly, and this bait just works really well for crappies. It's a decent sized lure, so it's a pretty big offering. That's what those big crappies want. They want the big bait a lot of times. Not always, but when they're neutral to aggressive, they're gonna go for a bigger bait. That's why this bait works really well. Now you can see it's got the some arms, the action tail, and it's got a jointed body. So this thing looks really good in the water. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So here you can see that Versamite in the water, and here I'm just putting a little action on it. You can see how those, the tails really start whipping. The arms are even whipping, even though they're small. The arms are quivering. If I put big strokes in, then the jointed body even jiggles. So I can get a lot of action whether I'm trying to fish this bait really slowly on a more neutral or a tougher bite day, because this bait will work when the crappies are finicky. Or I can really put a lot of action if I'm working that bait a little harder, jumping it a little bit, and getting even the jointed body there to flex. So the Versamite is a great lure. Chartreuse is one of my favorite colors, but I like to have those other colors with me because on any given day, you never know which color is going to work the best. But chartreuse is a go-to a lot of times. Alright guys, the next bait we're going to talk to is another go-to bait of mine. This bait works pretty much all the time. It works when the crappies are aggressive, and when the crappies get finicky, this is one of the lures I go to. It's the Clam Makey Plastics Jamie. Looks just like this. Here it is in chartreuse. I also have the red. That's what it looks like in red. Here it is in pink. Again, I like to have multiple colors. But a chartreuse, in just this area, right, it really works well. So right now I have it rigged on a 13 fishing Doug jig. So this is a bait you want to fish horizontally. It's got the 2 action tails, which are stuck right now, but when we look at it in the water, they'll wiggle. There we go. So the 2 action tails hang out. It's got some, the arms on the side. It's a thin profile. So when those crappies are a little finicky, when they don't want to hit a big bait because they've been feeding on plankton, this bait works really well. I like the tungsten Doug jig. I'm big on tungsten jigs. You have better feel, and it gets down in that deep water, which you're fishing a lot. So I fish a lot of tungsten jigs, and again, this is a 13 fishing Doug. But the Clam Jamie is just a great bait. It looks awesome in the water. Let me show you. There is that Jamie. Look at those action tails. Those action tails look awesome. It's why this bait is one of my favorites. But even if you fish this thing really, really slow, it still gets great action and really gets those crappies to bite. So the Clam Jamie is one of my absolute go-to baits. Now, before we get to the next 3 baits, I just want to invite you guys to join my 5-day crappie locating challenge if you haven't already. Basically, the way the challenge works is when you sign up by clicking in the link in the description of this video, I send you 5 videos that outline how to go out onto a new lake and locate crappies. So you watch those 5 videos and then you go out and you apply what you learn. Try to go out on either a lake that you've already fished but find new spots, or go out on a brand new lake you've never fished and locate crappies. And then you just reply and say, you know, challenge complete. So basically the 5-day challenge, it's 5 days, 5 videos, and it outlines how to go to new lakes and find new spots. So if you haven't joined the 5-day challenge already, make sure you click on the link in the description of the video and join the challenge. Okay guys, so the next bait we're going to talk about is the VMC Flash Champ spoon. Looks just like this. Now the Flash Champ really works well for catching crappies, whether you're fishing shallow, whether you're fishing deep. As far as spoons, the Flash Champ works really well. This is UV right here, orange UV. Right here is one of my favorite colors. It's the Glow Goldfish. Looks just like that. But the Flash Champ spoon really works awesome. Now, when the crappies are aggressive, a lot of times they'll hit the Flash Champ with nothing. But when they're a little less than aggressive, I like to start out packing each of the 3 trebles with a waxworm or a spike. As I find out how aggressive they are and what they're willing to hit, I might put less waxworms on. So maybe I'll only do 2, maybe I'll only bait 1 hook. But the Flash Champ really works well in both deep and shallow water. Now I'm going to throw in a bonus spoon, and that's this Castmaster rattle spoon. Looks just like this, but it has the rattles. This is also a heavy bait. They make the Castmaster in tungsten too, so it can get down there really quick. But you're going to fish it pretty much the same way. And this bait too, you can catch them, you know, without tipping the hooks. But I like to start out tipping the hooks. Just whenever I'm fishing a spoon, I start out tipping. But these baits are fairly heavy, so you can get them down fairly quick. If you get the Castmaster tungsten, that's the best for getting down fast. So if you're like trying to drop on crappies, that Castmaster tungsten is a good one because you can get it down there really fast. Because if you're trying to drop on fish, meaning you walk over to a hole, drop the transducer down, you see a fish, and then you try to get your bait down, you got to be fast. So that's where that tungsten helps. But these spoons, they're small and they have good action, so they work well for fishing basins, but also weeds. Let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, guys, so here you can see when I'm jigging that Flash Champ up and down, you can see it's falling erratic. That erratic fall, that's what gets the crappies to bite and tracks them in. But then when they get right under the bait, a lot of times I'll just do this type of motion, jig it in place and just get it to flash without those big movements. Here's to call them in, and here's to seal the deal. Just jig it in place, and you can see it looks good even just jiggling in place. Put some waxies on that for added attraction. Now the Flash Champ and that Castmaster, these are small enough spoons, these are 32nd ounce, that I can fish them on my light action rod. And you can see it's not really loading the rod tip. Just hanging the bait there is not loading the rod tip. That's what you want. You don't. So if you fish a bigger spoon like a VMC rattle spoon, then you want to use a little bit heavier rod like a medium light power. All right, guys, the 4th lure I want to talk about is just an absolute staple for crappie fishing all year, and that's the jigging wrap. The jigging wrap really works well. Now for ice fishing, sometimes you'll get in situations where they don't want to hit the jigging wrap, And in those cases, go back to the plastic. But anytime you're fishing aggressive crappies, the jigging wrap is awesome. If it's deep water, you get down, they're heavy, so you get down there really fast. Most of the time, the crappies are just smashing this thing. When you fish it in shallow water, usually crappies that are up shallow are actively feeding. They are absolutely crushing these jigging wraps. I can't tell you how many big crappies I've caught already this year while walleye fishing with jigging wraps. Even big ones, number 5s, those big crappies are coming up and smashing them. But day in and day out, I like the number 3 or the number 2 jigging wrap. Alright guys, for those of you who stayed to the end, we are on to our 5th lure, and it's probably one of my all-time favorite crappie lures. I've been using this one for years because it works awesome. That is the VMC wax tail jig. Looks just like this. This is the 1.5 inch. I also really like the inch. When the crappies are aggressive, we go for the 1.5 inch. When they're a little less aggressive, go for the inch. Now, so the way this works is that's a VMC Mongo jig, and that's a Trigger X wax tail. The easiest way to find these is they come in 2 packs. Most retailers carry them. It's called a VMC wax tail jig. These things work. Let me show you what I'm talking about. There you go, guys. You can see that action tail. You barely need to work this thing, and that tail just goes crazy. So even for finicky crappies, you can see how I'm jigging this thing pretty much in place, but that action tail goes. If I get a little bit bigger with my jigging strokes, you can really get that tail to go. That is why this bait is absolutely deadly. All right, guys, so these are some of my top 5 crappie lures. Go out and try them. I hope this video helped you, and make sure you sign up for the 5-day crappie locating challenge if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next video.